Welcome to the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Monday, February 22nd, a brand new week set to begin. It's Ian Cameron with you in the host chair, as always, joined by Alex B. Smith back after a weekend, a hiatus, ready to break down the Monday NHL card. And once again, we find ourselves with one of these Monday slates where there's a lot to choose from, which has not always been the case in past years. So let's get to it. We'll start top of the rotation, top of the betting board as always. The Calgary Flames taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto minus 140 to minus 145, home favorites. Total open 6.5. It has been bet down to 6 in most places right now. So be aware there has been a move toward the under. The Calgary Flames, you could understand why there's interest in the under from their standpoint. Offensively, the well has run dry for this Flames team in their last few games. You look at these last 3 losses that they have had, 2 of them of the ugly variety. They get beaten 5-1 at home by Vancouver. They lose a close one, a tight, low-scoring, tight checking affair against Edmonton on Friday by a score of 2-1. And then they end up getting absolutely blown out, embarrassed in the back end of that double dip in the Battle of Alberta, losing 7-1 to the Edmonton Oilers on Saturday night. So there's clearly issues with the Calgary Flames. Kind of hinted about that on yesterday's show, that really there's no facet of their game that is functioning at a very good level right now. The offense is sputtered. Matthew Tkachuk's running around trying to hit every guy out there on the ice and not worrying about trying to produce offensively at the moment for this Flames team. Johnny Gaudreau has gone into a cold spell again, and of course he had a lot of those last season for the Flames. Started out this season well, but he's cooled off a little bit. You're not really seeing some of the depth forwards that stepped up a little bit offensively for them last year. You know, Michael Backlund has had a tough time. Elias Lindholm's cooled off after a nice start. You're not seeing Dylan Dubé have that offensive surge that he had last year in the playoffs. It's just the whole group forward-wise is just not, producing, not delivering the goods right now. It's plain and simple, for this Calgary Flames team. And then you turn it over to the blue line, and I have never seen Calgary in a swatch of games, particularly Saturday, where they're just running around out of position. There doesn't seem to be any plan. There doesn't seem to be any communication in the defensive zone. Like, you have this guy, I'll take this guy. You got guys running around in their own zone, just trying to make a hit, not staying in front of the net, letting guys run straight to the net and get those key high-danger scoring chances in the slot. And you start to evaluate this blue line. Noah Hannafin has tailed off. This is a guy that was a first-round pick. The TJ Brody loss is looking more and more impactful with how well he's played in Toronto. Mark Giordano has had a rough start to the season, and if he's not going, that's real trouble for the Flames on the blue line. Rasmus Andersson has been, I think, arguably you would say their best defenseman. He's actually been good, but outside of that, this blue line has really struggled. And Jacob Markstrom spent the first, most of the first month of the season carrying this team, and even he hasn't been able to bail them out the last few. He'll be back in net tonight. Of course, he was in between the pipes for Saturday's ugly loss. So he'll be chomping at the bit to bounce back. But I don't know. Calgary's just not playing well. The Vultures are circling around Jeff Ward a little bit. There's some clamoring now for his job security at this point in time. So a lot of problems right now with Calgary. But I do think the spot is a decent one for them. You got to think there's pride. You got to think there's a team that's embarrassed after the loss on Saturday. I just wish I could trust them more, and I just wish I had more of a will to want to fade Toronto right now, which I don't really necessarily have, coming off another nice win against Montreal. But again, potential flat spot after a big win against Montreal, and some injuries now for the Leafs going into this game tonight. Zach Hyman won't play. Joe Thornton, who has been a part of that, has been, I think, an underrated part of the success that Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner have had. He's fit in very well on that top line with them. He's out day-to-day, won't play tonight due to injury. And Jake Muzzin on the blue line also not playing tonight for the Leafs. So suddenly 3 starters, 3 regulars out of the lineup. Calgary team that you would think has got to show some pride. I do lean to Calgary a little bit here, plus 130, but man, it's tough to back this team. They're just not playing well in any facet of their game. Special teams, offensively, defensively, they've caved in and struggled. And Jacob Markstrom hasn't been able to bail them out of that. Having said that, the choice for me would be Flames. Take a shot with them at the plus price or pass the game. I'll probably pass, but I would lean a little bit here to Calgary. I do think there's things that set up well for them. And the Leafs, you worry a little after the big win against Montreal, a little bit of a down spot for them, plus the injuries mounting a little with Thornton, Muzzin, and Hyman all out of the lineup. So that does concern you a little bit for Toronto, but I could see Calgary bringing it tonight, and maybe that's enough to maybe get them to a road win here in Toronto, although they're going to have to play a hell of a lot better in order to actually get the job done. Alex, what's your take here on the Flames and the Leafs?
Yeah, I was kind of looking through some of the numbers, and you look at first period numbers overall, not just the totals, but just how these teams start off games. Toronto's been one of those teams that have been absolutely lights out early in games. You've seen them cash the first period puck line. That's something I've played with them a lot over the years. Where Calgary's been a team actually in the negative as far as first periods go. They've tend to end up going into the intermission either trailing or tied. But like I said, the way that Calgary's playing right now, we should be seeing their best effort. Still don't think that's going to be enough right now to play this Toronto team that's been absolutely insane. Austin Matthews living up to the hype and exceeding it the way he's been playing right now. I mean, he's pretty much a 2-point a game guy, a goal a game guy right now, and that's that when you have him rolling with every like I said, yeah, you're missing Thornton, who has become a key piece. In the times that we've seen him play, missing Muzzin, Wayne Simmons still out with a guy who had been hot for a while. I think the Toronto team's still pretty loaded, and the form that Calgary's in right now, in short form, it's just not good. You mentioned on all facets and all levels right now. So I'm going to take a shot once again with Toronto first period puck line. So laying the half a goal, at plus 140. You can find plus 145. That's a really good price, because usually you find that in the plus 110, 120 range, because they'd be much higher favorites more often than not. But as far as full game goes, I might look at jumping something in game. If Calgary does put forward their best effort early, then they might be a team to look at, even if they're down a goal, could possibly come back. But right now, I think Toronto, at least in the first 20 minutes of play, will probably dictate the pace.
All right, so maybe you look Toronto here first period to maybe carry that momentum forward from a big win against Montreal. And again, Calgary reeling quite a bit right now. Dallas and Florida, we've got the Florida Panthers minus 120, home favorites here, 5.5 the total in this game. The Florida Panthers, I think the loss to Detroit, on Saturday, I think you can excuse that a little bit for this Panthers team. We're talking about a team that's had a lot of big games, a lot of good competition, a lot of games that they've wanted to raise their level and show to the NHL world that, hey, we can beat the Tampa Bays, we can beat the Carolinas of the world. And sure enough, they did that. They beat Tampa twice. They beat Carolina in overtime a week ago, and they absolutely pounded Detroit. And in the first of the two games against the Red Wings, and then you're playing that same Detroit team again, and you could tell the team was not locked in. And you got to give some credit to Detroit. You always have to give some credit to the team that wins the game, but there's no doubt the Florida Panthers passes weren't crisp. There just wasn't a lot of flow offensively. And usually when you lose that rhythm offensively, like when you go from all the offensive rhythm and the ability to score goals in bunches that the Panthers have, and then all of a sudden in that one game against Detroit, you don't have it. That speaks volumes, I think, about how the fact the team was just not totally locked into that particular game, the second of the two back-to-back against the Red Wings over the weekend. I think they'll be better here. They've been absolutely money in the bank, the Panthers, off a loss. In fact, I'm pretty sure they haven't dropped 2 straight games this season, this Panthers team. I'd expect them to be a lot better here. And current form-wise, it's definitely, you got to see that the Panthers are certainly the team that's played better hockey of late. Dallas, of course, has been off now for several days. They've had games postponed due to the snowstorm that has ripped out power throughout the state of Texas. There's people in that state that have had to struggle to get not only power, but, clean water, for crying out loud, in their homes, and food on the table. I mean, it's been that much of a devastating crisis going on in that state. Now, I know Dallas is going on the road for this game, but the Stars players, coaches, they live in that area. They're experiencing some of this that's going on there. It's a distraction. It certainly can't help focus for a particular, to play a hockey game potentially. I think it does help them that they're on the road. They're not playing in Dallas where, the situation is still very prevalent, where it's present at that time. But still, I mean, it's got to be weighing on the mind of a lot of these players, what's going on back in the state of their team. And you just got to worry about that a little bit here. So that's just an intangible that probably doesn't go in Dallas's favor either in this game tonight. So you got Dallas hasn't played in a while. You worry how sharp they're going to be. You worry that maybe they've got at least some part of their minds on what's going on back home in the state of Texas right now with that devastation caused by the snowstorm and the power outages in that state. And the second thing is Florida's been good off a loss. Florida's in better form. I don't know. To me, I'm going to lay minus 120. The price to me looks perfectly reasonable here on this Florida Panthers team. Looks like they're going to go back to Chris Driedger in net as well. And it's hard to argue with that. He's been pretty solid. They haven't really let Bobrovsky run with this number one job. Joel Quenneville says it's going to be back and forth, and he's stuck to that so far this season. So I like Florida here. I do lean a little to the over as well. I like the over at 5.5 here, and I also like the over in a game where Florida only scored one goal. They've been pretty good after getting held down one game to really bounce back offensively the next. So I like the Panthers, and I like over 5.5 here against the Stars. Alex, what are your thoughts here? Dallas, Florida.
Yeah, like I said, the mindset of Dallas has to be questions for sure. Obviously, just going back to how the season started with the COVID issue, and they had to delay it, and they were able to bounce back from that, and then go on a 5-game losing streak, and now run into these issues, like you said, with all the devastation and things that are going on in throughout the state of Texas. So now they have to worry about that, and like I said, leave home. It's probably a better spot for them leaving home than being there. But either way, like I said, it's still going to be on the back of their mind. For Florida, like I said, Chris Driedger's been a bright spot. We didn't really expect him to kind of step up in this way. We always thought Bobrovsky was going to be the clear-cut number one starter, but like I said, Coach Q has really given him some chances. And right now, if I had to look at anything, it would be the over here in this game. And that's simply just because of how Florida's playing offensively. They're going to give up some goals, but they're definitely going to score some on their own. You just worry about if Dallas can get in rhythm and help chip things out. So maybe even look at Florida team total over. I like where their offense is headed right now. So I'm going to go official with the Florida team total over. I have to check the exact price on that. And a lean with the full game over.
All right, lean to the full game over, but Alex is going to make an official play, the Panthers team total in this one. I'm going to look that up myself right now, but we'll get that number for you. And yeah, Florida's been very good off a loss, been better offensively as well in those games where they lose the previous game. I mean, we even saw that. We've seen that a bunch of times. The first loss they had to Tampa Bay, and they bounced back the very next game. They put a 6 spot on the board against the Lightning in that one. Yeah, the Panthers team total over 2.5 minus 140 is what we're looking at here with the Panthers team total. So all they need to do is get to 3 goals.
Yeah.
And you got it. And I think that's reasonable expectation, I think, with what we've seen from the Panthers. And, John Huberdeau to score a goal. I mean, can't argue with that. We should have mentioned it in the last game, Austin Matthews. I mean, to score a goal or to score 2 or more, I think you got to bet that prop every game until this point streak stops. And by the way, I posted this on Twitter. He is 2 games away from tying and 3 games away from passing Daryl Sittler, and believe it or not, Eddie Olczyk. Yeah, that Eddie Olczyk, NBC analyst, for the longest consecutive game point streak in Toronto Maple Leafs history. People were when I mentioned that, people were saying, "Oh, it's not shocking that Sittler, has got the team franchise record for consecutive game point streak." People a little more surprised about Eddie Olczyk, I think, because not quite the offensive player Sittler was, and also playing on the Leafs when they were really bad. He played on the Leafs in the late 80s, and that was a disaster era for the Toronto Maple Leafs franchise. And yet there he is, tied with Sittler, longest consecutive game point. He put up points. I mean, he actually carried the Leafs at times in the late 80s. Edzo. Yeah.
And it's interesting too, because that was the humongous trade, obviously, for him. He left the Blackhawks, and that was a move where the Hawks were trying to make a push, toward the playoffs. Except Toronto just kind of in the middle of nowhere, and he was mentioned about how he was a bit frustrated having to leave his hometown team, but he started off with a huge bang, and like I said, eventually leading to tying that streak. So it's interesting. I think he kind of mentioned it briefly too on in the broadcast Saturday when they were talking about it. During the outdoor game, he mentioned some points to that streak.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the professional Eddie is. And you can see he's a pro on the broadcast. He's a pro as a player too. He could have moped, he could have whined and complained. And, I'm getting traded out of Chicago and going to a Toronto team that, is just a dumpster fire at that point in time. Harold Ballard owned the team. He was a terrible owner. The team was just losing year after year after year, and they didn't get winning again until the early 90s when Cliff Fletcher became the GM and Pat Burns, the head coach. They brought in Gilmore, and the rest is history. They had a couple near misses toward the Stanley Cup final in the early 90s, but in the 80s they stunk. And Eddie Olczyk was one of the bright lights of those Leafs teams in the late 80s. But yeah, Austin Matthews, 2 games away from tying both Sittler and Eddie Olczyk, and 3 games away from passing them for longest consecutive game point streak. At this rate, I wouldn't bet against him getting that record. Next up, we've got Buffalo and the New York Islanders. We've got the Islanders minus 160 home favorites. The total 5.5, although there are a couple fives out there as well. Heavy juice to the under, about minus 140 with the 5.5s that are out there. I wouldn't argue with the under. The Buffalo Sabres aren't necessarily an offensive juggernaut. Even in the win, finally got off the schneid. A big 3-2 win for the Sabres against the New Jersey Devils. I cautioned everybody on the Saturday edition of the Ice Guys. You know, New Jersey had won back-to-back underdog games as underdogs against the Rangers and the Bruins, and then they're laying a price against the Sabres. I said, look out for this spot. And sure enough, the Sabres beat the Devils on Saturday afternoon. Just to see the puck go in the net has to be some kind of confidence for the Sabres going into this game. We'll see. I mean, this is a tricky game. Look, the Islanders are the better team. They absolutely schooled and dummied the Sabres in Buffalo just a week ago with the Sabres coming off their COVID hiatus. You know, they just completely shut down the Buffalo offense. And now back home against the Sabres, I don't know if I trust the Sabres to carry forward that momentum of the New Jersey win. But at the same point in time, normally when a team is on a losing streak and they win that first game, I usually like to bet on them after snapping along a losing streak, and that confidence usually keeps on going into the next game. So normally this is a spot I would look to bet Buffalo, and especially getting a plus price like this. You know, they finally get off the schneid, some confidence and momentum to carry forward to this game, but they have not matched up well against the Islanders. The Islanders have shut them down completely, and for that reason, I'm going to stay off this game from actually altogether. I'm not involved either from a total standpoint either. It's a pass for me with Buffalo and the Islanders. Alex, did you get involved in this one?
I'm looking at this one. I'm more than likely going to get involved here with the Islanders here, laying the $1.05 in regulation. I'm not going to be laying $1.50, $1.60 with anybody, but I'm kicking myself for not playing Buffalo on Saturday because I watched that Devils game, and I heard some people kind of kicking the wheels on the Devils, saying, oh, they could be a dark horse moving forward, that they missed a lot of time, but there's some bad teams in that division that they could leapfrog. And I just don't buy into it. They're just in a really bad spot. It's not that good of a team, and Buffalo proved it. At the same time, I stayed away from the game because I don't trust Buffalo one bit either. They've had their issues of missing games, but this is just a bad franchise. Let's just face it. Now there's more rumblings about Jack Eichel possibly being moved. Which that's gonna just probably throw a lot of the team chemistry off if he goes, because they don't get the right pieces back. And the fan base is probably going to be pretty ticked off too. They we're relying on him to be that guy to turn things around. It simply hasn't been the case. It's not all his fault, obviously. He's been the guy to chip in more often than not. They just haven't had the pieces around him. The goaltending's been spotty at times. Allmark's been as best as anyone can expect him, and as well as anyone has been in quite some time for Buffalo. But it's still not enough to carry a team. He's not a guy who can steal you games. He's a guy who can keep you in the games, but you don't just trust him, to get a win over a top 10 team on a night where the rest of his teammates aren't pulling their weight. So there's a lot of issues with Buffalo. So that being said, this Islanders team, they're rolling right now. They play that solid defensive style. They can shut things down. They can find ways to score now too. They're getting back to where they were in that momentum last year when we saw them in the playoffs going to the bubble. If they can get some consistent scoring still, watch out for them. So I like them tonight, minus $1.05 in regulation.
All right, Islanders in regulation, minus 105 for Alex B. Smith against the Sabres. We move on to the Lightning and the Hurricanes. Tampa Bay minus 125, road favorites, total 6 across the board. 2 straight losses. That's something you don't say for the Tampa Bay Lightning very often, and yet here we are. They lost the final game of that 3-game set against the Panthers at home. Faced the Hurricanes on Saturday night, and not only losing again and losing to Carolina. Look, losing to Carolina is not shocking. That is a very good hockey team, the Hurricanes. They've been excellent at home. They've still only lost the 1 game at home. That was the Florida game in overtime. So losing to Carolina is not shocking. Getting shut out, this Tampa team getting shut out by anybody is shocking. A 4-0 loss against the Carolina Hurricanes. Give Carolina credit. This is a tough team to go against right now. However, if you're a long-term, this core of the Lightning, Stamkos and, Tyler Johnson, Andre Palat, Braden Point, you go on down the list, Victor Hedman on the blue line, this core I don't think you need more than one hand to count the number of times they've let a losing streak get to 3 games or more. I mean, it's been a while, let's put it that way, since this team's lost 3 games or more after getting shut out by this Carolina team, regardless of whether they win or not, because maybe Carolina's playing that damn good right now. And right now, when you see this Hurricanes team, Vincent Trocheck, Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, Nino Niederreiter, Jordan Stahl. I mean, all of these guys on fire offensively. Heck, even Brock McGinn has been moved up to a top line role with this Carolina team, Alex, because he's producing offensively with Aho and Svechnikov lately. Brock McGinn is finding the back of the net. So this team is just loaded for bear offensively right now. They've got a very good blue line. Can they get the goaltending? Can they get it from Mrazek when he comes back? And can they keep getting it from the Reimer-Nedeljkovic combination? Obviously, that was Nedeljkovic, who was awful in the Florida game that pitched that shutout against Tampa Bay on Saturday. But Rod Brind'Amour not going back to him. It's going to be James Reimer tonight in net for the Carolina Hurricanes. Look, just out of necessity, it's been a bet I've made the last year or two. When Tampa's off 2 straight losses, and especially when they're off a shutout loss, I usually look to back them, especially if the price is reasonable. Price is not bad, considering like Carolina, you look at it on paper and say, this team's just rolling and they're a home underdog. I get that. I understand that thought process if you like the Canes here, but the Lightning off back-to-back losses, including a shutout loss to this same Carolina team, I have to look in their direction here. Simple as that. -120 to -125 road favorites. And I'm also going to go with the over. This line of thinking has worked for me in a couple of instances. The first Edmonton-Calgary game, rivals, under the total. What happened in the second game? Flew over the total. Winnipeg-Vancouver, first game went under the total. What happened in the second game? Flew over the total. Montreal-Toronto last Saturday in Toronto, 2-1. What happened last Saturday in Montreal? Flew over the total. Low-scoring first game, 2 division rivals, 2 teams that are capable offensively. I like to see it revert the other way in the second game and be more high scoring. I think we get that here. So I like the Lightning, and I like over 6 with them and the Canes tonight. Alex, what do you like here with Tampa, Carolina?
Yeah, I played the Lightning last night. It's the first game where I've actually played an overnight all season. I usually tend to wait because of how things are going with lineup changes and goalie confirmations coming in a little bit later. But like I said, the spot just screams Tampa Bay. Like I said, off 2 losses, but also off of a shutout. It's very rare that you see them go into a bit of a tailspin. They usually tend to bounce back with a vengeance. Like you said, the last 2, even 3 seasons going back with this core group. So that's the only way I'm looking at it here. Like I said, Carolina, they've been up and down, and they've been letting in goals as much as they've been scoring them. So like I said, I wouldn't blame you at all for taking the over here in this spot. No, I laid the -$1.20 with Lightning, not in regulation, but just straight money line. I would actually stay away from the regulation possibly, because if this does turn into a track meet, I wouldn't be shocked at all to see this be like 3-3 or 4-4 going overtime.
Yeah. So Alex liking the Tampa Bay here -120. It's not easy to go against Carolina. They're playing great, but I don't know. Reimer to me has been beatable. Let's not forget Chicago got him for 3 goals the other night, and Tampa Bay, you'd think they're loaded for bear tonight after getting shut out by this Hurricanes team. And the one thing about Tampa Bay, you go back and this year, last year, 2 years ago, when they've been shut out, and it doesn't happen very often, they're usually good for 3 minimum the next game. They usually put the onus on, getting the offense back on track, working on the power play, which is, by the way, something that they were addressing after the loss to Carolina on Saturday. So I think they'll have a better offensive showing here. Now, I know they still have Anthony Cirelli out. We know Kucherov's out for the regular season, but they've got more than enough weaponry to bounce back after a shutout loss. I think you'll see that here. And like I said, for a low-scoring first game with 2 teams, going back to that high-scoring thought process in the second meeting with those same 2 teams, it paid off for me with Edmonton-Calgary. It paid off for me this weekend with Winnipeg-Vancouver. It paid off for me with Montreal-Toronto. Like I said, last weekend under, Saturday's game against Montreal flew over the total. Things open up, because then people see low-scoring game, we got to get the offense going. High-scoring game the first game, we got to get things a little tighter defensively, ratchet it up in our own zone. So it's all about adjustments, especially when you got 2 teams with familiarity, 2 teams that are rivals. So I would expect this game to be a little bit more up and down, open ice, lots of trading chances, and I think it gets over the total. Looks like our former colleague here on the Ice Guys, Andrew McGinnis, is in the chat. Welcome in, Andrew. He was one of the colleagues, one of the participants and panelists on this show for a little bit. Hope he's doing well. We move on to the next game. We've got now we did all the 7 p.m. Eastern games, so now we go back up on the rotation board because I'm trying to go in order of start time as well. We are going to look now at the LA Kings and the St. Louis Blues. St. Louis minus 180, home favorites, total 5.5 shaded to the under here in this game. Let's give the LA Kings some credit here finally. 4 straight wins for them. Going into Arizona and sweeping the Coyotes was really impressive. We're just talking about an Arizona team that took 4 of 7 in that pseudo playoff series in the regular season against the St. Louis Blues. So, the LA Kings, to me, they're kind of like Ottawa. You got to be ready to play this team and not expect you're going to get the 2 points automatically stepping on the ice. Alex Iafallo has been good offensively. Dustin Brown is turning back the clock and having an offensive season I didn't expect to see from him out of this stage of his career. Adrian Kempe has been terrific start to finish. The rookie, Gabriel Velarde, is really emerging as an offensive talent for this Kings team. There's lots to like, and they worked their butt off for Todd McClellan. The blue line's been fortified and strengthened with Matt Roy. I never knew Matt Roy was such an important defenseman on this team. They get him back, and I don't think they've lost since. So everyone talks Drew Doughty, but Matt Roy has been an integral piece to that blue line. And it looks like the LA Kings are starting to give Cal Peterson more and more cracks at starting in net, and it's the right call. Jonathan Quick has not had a great season up and down. Cal Peterson is the future. Cal Peterson, you could probably say, is the better goalie this year as well. Makes sense to do that. Give him as many opportunities as possible, and make sure you give him the rope and the runway that he needs to really establish himself as maybe your potential number 1 NHL goaltender for many years to come. So it's the right call here. In terms of who's in net tonight, I haven't seen a confirmation yet from the Kings. Some sites have Quick as the projected goalie. It certainly would have me interested in an over if it's him. If it's Peterson, though, I'm not laying this price with the Blues. No way. Coming off a 5-4 loss to San Jose, it just continues to be just a garbled mess for the Blues, up and down and all around. Not a lot of consistency to their game. And Greg Berube, again, for like the 8th time this season, voicing frustration about his team's inability to string a win streak together. Not a team I'm looking to lay a price with. As of right now, no bet on this game for me. We'll see what the Kings do goaltending-wise. It is Binnington in net confirmed tonight for the Blues. Alex, what do you think here? LA, St. Louis.
Yeah, if it's Peterson, I would take a shot with the Kings money line at plus 150. They're on a 4-game win streak. Like you said, this is a Blues team that's been inconsistent for most of the year. And it kind of starts with Binnington. We've seen Binnington turn in some awful starts at times, and then sometimes he can stand on his head and bail his team out. But like I said, this is a Kings team playing probably the best hockey they've played all year, probably the best hockey in the last 2 years right now. And like I said, they're getting some solid balanced contribution, and they're picking teams weaknesses. They're not doing anything incredibly well. They're not scoring a ton of goals or getting incredible goaltending and shutting everybody out. They're just doing the little stuff right and grinding away at teams. So that plus 150 price, I would definitely take a look at them. But I want to make sure it's Peterson and not Quick. If it's Quick, then maybe I'll look for something in game and probably lean more toward the over.
All right, next up, Vegas and Colorado. Yeah, we've seen these two teams a bunch, and usually by now I'm sick of the same two teams playing each other again. You can give me this every night the rest of the season. I think every single Golden Knights Avalanche game the last week, the 2 games in Vegas, the outdoor game on Saturday between these two teams, which had to be finished after midnight. We gonna finish the hockey game after midnight. There we go. That's when they finished the hockey game the other night, after midnight Eastern time. I should point that out. It was 9 p.m. Pacific time in Lake Tahoe. But great games, tightly contested games, back and forth, good chances, good goals, great goaltending, good defensive play, a little bit of everything with these two teams. And now they'll meet for the 4th straight time. We've got Colorado minus 135, home favorite, total 5.5 here shaded to the under in this one. The under now has cashed in every meeting here with these two teams. All 3 games have gone under the total. They've been tight, low-scoring games. 1-0 Colorado, 3-2 wins for Colorado in these 3 games. Nathan MacKinnon's end-to-end rush goal Saturday night. Wow, was that ever something? It's like a vapor trail that he leaves going down the ice and just ripping that shot past Marc-Andre Fleury. With Marc-Andre Fleury going right to left, and he shoots it back against the flow. Perfect shot. No chance whatsoever for Fleury. It's kind of funny because I said this at the moment he scored that goal. You know, McDavid had a hat trick against Calgary. Austin Matthews is ripping up the Habs with 2 goals, 2 beautiful shots. It's like MacKinnon had to say, you know what? I'm a pretty damn good player too. Don't you forget about me. Don't you forget about me either. And Connor McDavid Nathan MacKinnon did that with his great end-to-end goal against Vegas the other night. I don't know what you think, Alex, about these 3 games, but what I've noticed is Colorado just looks better than Vegas, and that's no slight against the Golden Knights, who are a very good hockey team. But to me, Colorado looks a step quicker. Their blue line looks a little bit more mobile. The north-south moving the puck ability is better on the Avalanche than it is on the Golden Knights. And I'm going to sing the praises of this blue line one more time, as if I haven't done it enough. Devon Toews has been an amazing addition from the Islanders. He shuts things down in his own zone. He knows how to play that way. He comes from that Barry Trotz, structured, defensive-minded style. Perfect fit for this Colorado team. Cale Makar, we know how great he is. Unbelievable skater, unbelievable shot, great vision, great passer, all of that stuff. And good in his own zone. Doesn't get talked about enough. He's really good in his own end, too. Ryan Graves, Sam Girard, and 19-year-old Bowen Byram looks like he is, other than the one of the Vegas goals going off his stick on Saturday, he's been terrific. You would think this guy's been in the league for multiple years. He's only 19 years old. Hasn't even hit 20 yet. He's just playing his first dozen games in the NHL right now. Bowen Byram, he looks like he's going to be terrific in this league for a very long time. You would think Vegas is really, really going to have some incentive here to avoid getting skunked, in these 3 games here by the Colorado. Actually, they didn't get skunked. Rather, they won the first one, Vegas, against Colorado. But since then, Colorado won the last 2. And we'll see if they can at least get the split here, 2-2 against the Avs. But I don't know. I don't want to go against the Avalanche right now. I took them in the second of the 2 games that was played at T-Mobile Arena. I was leaning toward them on Saturday, but I played the under instead. But I was not surprised they won that game. To me, they just look a little bit better, and they look a little bit deeper up front too. Get away from Pacioretty, Stone, and your top 3, 4, 5 guy, Marchessault on this Vegas team. They don't get a lot of pop offensively from the bottom 6 forwards, from that 3rd and 4th line. They just don't. Whereas Colorado can get that kind of punch offensively from their depth forwards. So I think that's another check mark you got to give the edge to the Avalanche in. So it's a tough game. I'm certainly not going to lay minus 135 because we have seen an adjustment in the price now on Colorado, but I'm not going against this team. They're my pick to win the cup before the season, and they're looking like a complete, well-rounded, potential cup-winning team right now. And to think they don't even have Eric Johnson back, who's one of their sturdiest defensemen, their most experienced defenseman, and look at they're still going and finding ways to win and playing great hockey. So for me, I'm not going against Colorado. So for that reason alone, lean to the Avs, but I'm going to pass on this game. I would lean under again, but I've cashed a couple unders now with these teams. I'm not going to tempt my fate here in this one. And you're worried too that you might get a little, I don't know what it is, fatigue, a little from the outdoor experience. Maybe a little more sloppy play could creep into the proceedings tonight. I worry about that a little bit as well in terms of staying off the under. Alex, how do you see this one going here? Vegas, Colorado, one more time.
Yeah, like I said, I'm leaning toward Colorado, and if I were to play them right now, I would actually take them on the puck line, minus a goal and a half at plus 180. But I want to see how things start off with these 2 teams because of how strange Saturday was, having that long, 8-hour delay between the first period and then the final 40 minutes of play, where he said playing at night. That's just a weird kind of situation for teams to deal with. It's not like in the playoffs where you play 3, 4, 5 overtimes and it's all continuous. Having that kind of a layoff and going back into it, so kind of make them feel almost like they played 2 straight games in a day. That's something we don't see often. So obviously, it could be some kind of weird start to this game where both teams, like I said, the fact that they play until now the 4th straight time. I want to see how things play out. So this is definitely one of those games where I'm going to be looking for something in game, see what adjustments both teams made. But Colorado, like I said, I mean, they won the last two, and that 1-0 game, they were dominating the pace for most of the second and third period in that contest. They could have easily come back and won, but Fleury was just sensational, made a bunch of great saves to keep them alive. So they could have easily been 3 straight wins for the Avalanche, and I wouldn't be shocked if they make it 4 in a row if they can get things rolling early in this game tonight.
All right, so a lean here to the puck line for Alex B. Smith with the Avalanche against the Golden Knights. Next up, we've got Anaheim and Arizona. Arizona minus 150 to minus 160. Home favorites here, total 5, shaded to the over. This price has gone up a bit. I do like Arizona again, even though they kind of robbed me on Saturday against the Kings. They had lost both games to the Kings there, but I'm going to take them in regulation. I'm definitely now with the price where it is now, I am going to go with Arizona in regulation plus 100 for a small bet. But there's a bet I like more in this game, and it's the total. And it's going to surprise you. Here's my thought here. We have a rare 5, and you can't argue that it isn't deserved for the Anaheim Ducks. This has been a miserable offensive team. They have not been able to put the puck in the net. I understand that. But they have the chance, I think, tonight to get a legit spark to their offense. And finally, it's happened. It should have happened weeks ago. But Trevor Zegras is finally called up to this Anaheim Ducks team and is finally going to make his Anaheim Ducks debut tonight against this Arizona Coyotes team. Long overdue. He's tearing it up in the AHL. Now, I know AHL success doesn't always mean NHL success, particularly immediately at the onset. But he's going to help, and he's only 19, but he's ready. He's ready. He's been ripping it up, like I say, down there. Absolutely outstanding in AHL numbers prior to his call up here with the Anaheim Ducks. And just his being on the ice and in the lineup for Anaheim. And he's expected to be slotted in on the second line tonight with Sam Steele and Jakob Silfverberg. Max Jones, Ryan Getzlaf, Troy Terry, the top line. But they're going to give him top 6 forward minutes. They're going to give him power play opportunity, and he can legitimately make a difference and get this Anaheim team at least a little bit away from this stagnation that they've seen offensively so far this season. I think it's a little bold. And again, when you're looking for, teams to not change their ways, but you're looking for these little edges in the course of the season where things can change in an instant. And all of a sudden a team that, the total is 5 in this game because of full season numbers. And based on those full season numbers, the total does deserve to be 5 in this game with how pathetic Arizona's been offensively. They are right near the bottom with Detroit and Nashville for lowest scoring teams in the NHL. But Zegras being here tonight and moving forward, I think gives them a little shot in the arm offensively. And it's not just what Zegras can bring to the team offensively. It's what he can do for everybody else. He gives everybody else maybe a little bit more of a willingness to open up a little bit, open the game up a little bit, take some more chances, jump into the play. If you're a blue liner, you may be more apt to do that now. You see a Trevor Zegras flying around and making plays on the ice. So I think at 5, I'm going to be a little proactive here with an overplay with Anaheim tonight. I could see Zegras's debut. I'm not saying he's going to score, although I'm always interested when you're talking about a very skilled player, maybe scoring a goal in his first game. We have seen that before. We've seen it many a time. So I wouldn't even talk anyone out of a Zegras goal scoring prop tonight, but I just think it gives Anaheim a little bit more of a willingness to open up their game a bit offensively. So I like this total. It's a bargain 5, minus 130 to the over. I'm going to go with that here in this Ducks-Coyotes game. And let's be honest, Arizona's generated chances every game. They haven't always gone in, but all of their high danger chances, expected goals margin, all of that kind of stuff indicates that this team should be finding more offense than they have so far this season. So I'm going to take a shot here over the total. For the first time, I haven't bet any Anaheim games over. Who the hell would want to? Who would do it? But I'm going to try it here tonight. Alex, what do you think? Anaheim, Arizona.
I like your thought process going in with this game. Like you said, I think Zegras is obviously going to give the Ducks a huge boost offensively, something they need. But I think it's going to take time. I don't see this game particularly being the spot in which things start rolling. Like I said, they're going to need time to gel with him. but in due time, they will get some more, balance offensively with him in the lineup. That being said, I think Arizona might come out here and score early. And what I'd be looking at would be, if they can get a goal within the first 5 minutes. I tried this last night. It didn't work, obviously, because Carter Hart was an absolute mess. But the theory of, an early goal and then jumping right on the full game under live, catching a better number. That's something I might be looking at doing here, especially because the number being 5. That might jump right up, might even be 5.5. It might go straight to 6. If there's a goal early enough. And I think Arizona can get that early goal. So if you're looking to playing this live, look for Arizona to score first, or first goal in game, and then look for that live under if they can get it within the first 5 minutes.
All right, so maybe some live betting strategies worth looking at there for Alex with this Ducks Coyotes game. Claudio in the chat, overall record for me. You know what? It's even, break even. I mean, I'm pretty much, it's been up and down so far. There's no question. It's right around break even. Although yesterday I had a 2-1 day with the, actually 2-1 with the official. I think the Ice Guys card was more than, it was 2-1 as well. I'm trying to think. No, I had the Washington team total. I had the New Jersey Washington over. I had the Philly Boston under, 3-1 yesterday with that. So yeah, it was a good day yesterday. That pushed me, I think, into slight profit overall for the year, but it's not what I'm hoping for better. I want to be better than it's been so far. It's been up and down for sure for me so far. But like I say, there's lots of season left. It's been one of those seasons where you're adjusting to all this crazy new schedule. Teams are playing each other 3-4 times in a row. Games are getting postponed. It's harder to find out good information day in, day out. You're getting these Zoom calls, these virtual press conferences, and coaches aren't really, divulging as much as they have in years past. So it's all an adjustment, but definitely lots of season ahead. No question.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. And for me, my plays have been, I've dropped a couple of units as far as, plays before game, but I've been stressing the in-game wagering because that's really, it's bailed me out on some losing nights, and it's added a lot of profit on some winning nights. I've been on a very hot run since the beginning of the year with these in-game wages. And like you said, because there's so many variables and changes, it's just something you really have to kind of, if you can take the time to do it and you have the book that allows you to do it, which many people do have nowadays, even just, you don't have to do full units. You can just do quarter units and half units and still turn profit because you're getting usually some big plus prices that you can cash in on if you find the right spot. So like I said, I'd like to be doing better overall, but I'm hoping the in-game streak continues tonight and moving forward.
80% of my plays now that I send out are half unit and quarter unit. Like I'm very selective now with 1 unit and 2 unit plays, not only in the NHL, but every sport. And I'm kind of glad I've adopted that way, because especially in a season like this where you're forced to handicap things a little bit differently than you have in years past. And it's definitely a good time to, maybe pull the reins back a little bit in terms of how much you put amount wise on every bet.
Right, and there's a difference between us. 'Cause I know, Ian, you're more of a high volume player. I mean, I'm more meticulous as far as what like I said, what I'll jump in with pregame, because, and that's been due to the fact of me playing more in game. I like to save some units aside to play stuff in game, and not take so much of a hit beforehand. So like you said, it's all variables that you kind of have to balance with, and you have to do what you're comfortable with as far as your bankroll goes.
Absolutely good advice there, no question. A final game on this Monday card now, Minnesota and San Jose. Minnesota minus 150, road favorites here, 5.5 the total, shaded to the over. Definitely don't feel comfortable laying $1.50 here with the Wild on the road. Nevertheless, it's been a pretty solid rebound for the Minnesota Wild, though, against the Anaheim Ducks, winning back-to-back games against them. Definitely positive signs. Kevin Fiala, boy, I mean, if talk about Nashville, I mean, some of the reasons they've struggled is they didn't get the Kevin Fiala that Minnesota is clearly getting. He's been excellent for them. We know Kirill the Thrill, Kaprizov has certainly had some glimpses of what he can bring offensively for this team for many years to come. And you got to give them credit. Like, I know it's only Anaheim, but they've still got some key guys out of the lineup that didn't travel. They've got to keep going every game, it seems, with Capo Kakkonen. They wait for Stalock's on the IR. Cam Talbot's been in and out. So, and it looks like it's going to be Capo Kakkonen in net again tonight for the Minnesota Wild. I saw a funny tweet, by the way, from Gord Miller, who's a great hockey broadcaster. He says, I can't wait for that one game where I can say Capo Caco stopped by Capo Kakinen in a hockey game if the Rangers ever play the Anaheim Ducks. So pretty funny stuff there from Gord Miller. Yeah, tongue twister for a broadcaster if we ever get that. But yeah, Minnesota's playing good, and I'm certainly not, I'm not a big San Jose fan. I will give them credit, though, for really making life tough on St. Louis in those back-to-back games. It took them to overtime in the first game, but lost, and then beat them 5-4 in the rematch. Say what you will about the Sharks, and you can rip them for their defensive play, and they should, because they're not great at that end of the ice, and Jones and Dubnyk are not trustworthy goalies, but they can score, and they've got Logan Couture and Kevin LeBanc, Timo Meier and company, Tomas Hertl. I mean, they've got all of these guys stepping up and finding the back of the net for them offensively here. So, like I said, San Jose's been a team I've looked toward overs with. I know Minnesota's been 3 unders, but 1 with LA, 2 with Anaheim. This is a game where I think you get a little more pace. The total's only 5.5. I'm not involved in the side, but I did play it over 5.5 here, minus 115 with the Wild and the Sharks. Alex, what do you think here with Minnesota, San Jose?
Yeah, you said the question marks in net and on defense for San Jose have been glaring the whole year. But like I said, they're getting some offense as well. And this Wild team, they match the style of who they play. They can, be low scoring and get in the trenches with a team like Anaheim. Then they can be high flying with the Colorados and the LAs of the world as well. And I think we're going to see this one be more of an up-tempo affair. I like the first period over here, 1.5 goals, minus $1.20. We've been seeing, Wild have cashed 7 of the last 10 to the first period over. The Sharks 10-6 to the first period over overall this season. So both of these teams are at the top of that number. Like I said, I think we can definitely see goals going back and forth. So it's a slight lean to the full over as well, but I'm officially on the first period over.
All right, like in Minnesota, San Jose over 1.5 in the first period. Alex B. Smith, he is the first period over. Someone said that in our live YouTube chat. For those of you that may be listening on the podcast, we have the YouTube video and we have a chat going during each show. And someone said Alex is the first period over king. I wouldn't argue with that. Definitely loves his first period overs. Usually has one on every card. It seems these days, but he's done well with the Minnesota, San Jose over 1.5, minus 120 in the first period for Alex. And that's going to wrap up the Monday breakdown of the card. I hope you enjoyed the betting analysis. Hopefully we can help you cash some tickets. Before we get to best bets, we also want to take care of some business and remind you to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Sign up for an account. And when you do, use the promo code THPN, standing for, of course, the Hockey Podcast Network. Make sure you do that. Download the app, sign up, use that promo code THPN. You get sign-up bonus. You get weekly specials, incentives, bet bonuses, bet boosts. You'll get all of that available with your DraftKings Sportsbook app account if you sign up using the promo code THPN. All right, best bet time for this Monday, February 22nd NHL card. Alex, what do you like for best bet tonight?
Yeah, before I get to my best bet, I want to quickly mention that if you go on the patreon.com page, you're still a patreon.com subscriber, I will be updating the goalie charts and rankings. I haven't done that in about a week or so, so I'll have that stuff all updated. And in a couple of weeks, we're going to have some surprises coming up as well, too. That'll be posted on the Patreon page. So definitely check that out. Even if you don't subscribe, check out there's some things that might be, will be in the free range, but most things you have to subscribe, still only $10 a month. And like I said, we're going to have a lot more bonus content moving forward. Hoping to do some live shows as well. But my best bet for tonight, we'll just go back to the game we just talked about with Minnesota and San Jose. I like that first period over. Like I said, the offense is rolling for both of these teams. Capo Kakinen is going to start in net for the Wild. He's been solid at times, but he's also been susceptible to letting in some soft goals. It's Martin Jones for San Jose. Like I said, I haven't been able to trust him in about 2.5, almost 3 years, it seems like. So this is a good price, only laying a goal and a half. Go Wild and Sharks over in the first period.
All right, Minnesota, San Jose, over 1.5, minus 120 in the first period for Alex B. Smith's best bet. Yeah, Martin Jones is coming off his best game of the year, the first game against St. Louis. But I will take my chances that we don't see a follow-up performance from Martin Jones tonight. And putting together 2 great games in a row for him has been an arduous task for him, to say the least. Best bet for me on this card, I'm going to go to I'm going to go to, because I'm worried enough about, Carolina and how good they're playing, I'm going to go with the total in that game. And I like the Lightning too. I think they'll win, but I like the over more. Over 6 here, minus 110. Lightning and Hurricanes. I think you get the high-scoring game you didn't see Saturday. James Reimer's not been as sharp lately. Bounce back for the Lightning offense here, in my opinion, in this game tonight. I think you'll see it. And I think even if they do bounce back offensively, you want to trust Tampa Bay to completely shut down this explosive and terrific Carolina offense right now with the form they are scoring goals right now. I certainly wouldn't think they're going to completely shut down Carolina either, even if they do win this game. So my best bet is going to be Tampa Bay, Carolina over 6, minus 110 for Monday, February 22nd. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. A reminder, if you can't watch us daily live on YouTube, we're in audio podcast form on all major podcast providers. And also, Alex mentioned the Patreon page, patreon.com/iceguys. We have our daily betting card that we announce and unveil on this show every single day, posted there for subscribers. That's at patreon.com/iceguys. So our card gets posted there every single day after each show. Make sure you check that out if you're interested in that. Another great show. Thanks to Alex for joining me. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Monday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll see you again tomorrow on Tuesday. And we'll talk to you again then for another edition of the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.